Hello everyone, and welcome back to Dorman Ventures. Today, I'm joined by quite the unique guest, Ben Morin, a Virginia Tech alum and founder who built Virginia Tech's #1 emerging startup in 2023 and successfully transitioned from college entrepreneur to post-grad professional while staying deeply involved in the startup space. After graduating from Virginia Tech, where he studied entrepreneurship, innovation, and technology management, and launched the widely successful startup FYNIL, Ben suddenly found himself in a new and unfamiliar environment after graduation, where balancing a full-time career with his entrepreneurial ambitions became a whole new challenge. But instead of stepping away, he found a way to make both work and to continue his commitment to entrepreneurship in the post-grad world. He stayed active in the startup ecosystem, working with VCs, early-stage founders, and innovation communities to continue building and supporting entrepreneurship both at VT and beyond. Today, he's here to break down what it takes to launch a startup in college, navigate the transition after graduation, and stay involved in the entrepreneurial world, whether as a founder, investor, or builder. Ben, welcome to Dorman Ventures. Thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Zaki, thank you for having me. I admire your work, and that's why I reached out to you. And I'm really excited, not just for this podcast, but for the ones you're going to have in the future and the other 500 things you're working on and have coming up in the pipeline. And I'm glad I could be here and help support in any way. Thank you for having me.
Of course, yeah. No, thank you so much. I feel this is going to be an amazing conversation, not only for us, but also for all the listeners. So let's just dive into things. Entrepreneurship, right? How did you first get into it? Where are you with it now? And in general, how has it really formed you as a person?
Great question. So I got into entrepreneurship how I would say most people do. It just happened. And I was working at my first internship in 2021 at Virginia Tech football. And I was the operations intern for the director of operations and the chief of staff, Michael Hazel. Shout out Michael Hazel. He's an awesome guy at Virginia Tech football. And I was applying for a role there that I thought would start in the fall and September, October time. My interview was in February, and they asked me to come in the next day. So that was a pretty eye-opening and enlightening experience. But how that led me to entrepreneurship was this new mystery market started coming out called NIL, or name, image, and likeness. And I kind of heard about that earlier than the public did, because of course we were on the inside. And I talk a lot, and a lot of the football guys, we always would chat back and forth about business ideas and opportunities, and some of them actually ended up approaching me with their own ideas, but they had one main fear or problem standing in their way, was that they didn't want to lose their eligibility to play. And the challenge with NIL was that it was founded from a legal case, and that case was interpreted differently not only by each conference, but it was interpreted differently by each state and sometimes even the school. And the athletes wanted to get out and do their own entrepreneurial ideas and ventures and build their name, image, and likeness, NIL, but they didn't want to lose their eligibility to play. So I ended up stepping back from my dream job. I grew up as a Hokie. Both my parents are Hokies. And I was in Lane Stadium watching Tyrod Taylor as a kid, if I can date myself there. But that was a dream job to work for Tech football, and I stepped away from it because I saw a dream and something that I could build for myself. So it was very challenging. I would say wildly successful as for what I learned and who I met. The startup itself struggled to get out of the ideation phase because the entire market was changing every 3 weeks. What could we do? What could we not do with the athletes? What could the schools do? What couldn't the schools do? So about a year and a half ago, I ended up stepping away from that. But I can get into a little bit more specifics about that, if you will. I kind of found my time and my people at Virginia Tech in the entrepreneurial realm, and I think it's a great opportunity that's growing. but underlooked by students.
No, 100%. I think that's a really important point. And one other thing that, we were discussing previously was that your whole entry point into this whole space, Virginia Tech, the entrepreneurial world, was during COVID. And I'm curious to see what sort of obstacles that put in front of you and what sort of forms of leverage it provided.
Great question. So shout out to all my 2024 graduate Hokies. We all came in the middle of the pandemic in 2020. Some of us were remote. We didn't have an orientation. Most of us didn't even know our roommates going in, and we couldn't have more than one guest in our room at a time. It was very challenging. Not only was our high school senior year ripped away, but then we had to go off and build this new life in a very uncertain time. And that built some challenges socially. I mean, we hardly knew the people on our floors, let alone clubs. And this is my own experience. Some people got more involved. The fraternities and sororities were more involved than the rest of the campus was. That was not my scene, so I didn't benefit from that. But to summarize that up, when my younger friends came in the next year and I was a sophomore, Ben, can you show us where our classrooms are? The answer was, I don't know. I haven't been over there yet. So COVID was a very challenging time to get involved. However, one day, through some pamphlet newsletter on my email, I saw this thing, the Apex Center for Entrepreneurs. And I went, well, that's interesting. And this was before my time at Tech football, or around the same time. But I walked in that space and my mind was blown. I don't know if you guys are familiar of where that space is, but it's on Main Street, just up the hill past Hokie House. I believe it's above PK's. It's an amazing space. You go up to the top floor, windows everywhere. There's always people in there. Even the engineers, they have their vertical monitors, which, if you ever see someone with a vertical monitor, they're cooking up something crazy on that computer. But I walked in there and there was a buzz, and there was a fire within most people, and everywhere you went, somebody had an awesome idea, and I went, oh my gosh, these are my people. And Sean Collins, he was a great person, and he's still there at Apex, and he welcomed us in with open arms. And Teresa McCoy, she was my Virginia Tech mother, if you will. I just spoke to her the other day. She's an awesome person. But the folks there at Apex really welcomed me, and eventually my co-founder, Harry Chalklotter, in with open arms, and it kind of blew up from there. And I can go into some more experiences about that if you'd like, but that's kind of the COVID struggle and how Apex sort of pulled me out of that.
Of course, yeah. And of course, I'd love to hear more about those experiences, how it ended up, shifting over time and what it taught you about the whole space in general over the years.
Okay, awesome. So I walk away from Tech football and I decide with my co-founder, Harry, who we actually had the same idea at the same time, the same day. And we text each other it, and we realized, oh my gosh, that's got to be a sign, right? Like how crazy is that? And it wasn't quite the NIL compliance, a solution platform for the athletes. It was a bit of a different idea, but it grew into that. And some things I can start thinking about. So when you go into the Apex Center, they've got hundreds of students signed up for their general activities, and they've got sometimes they've got weekly events. They've got Meet the Founders, where they'll have people like your previous guest, Mr. Rob Cummings, come in and get to speak to them. And at that time, I'm like, oh, I've never spoken to a CEO quite like this. Like, this is exciting. And everybody there was pitching ideas, building pitch decks, business plans, MVPs, trying to raise money, you name it. And Harry, again, my co-founder, and I we pretty much lived there. There was a running joke. There was a room in the back, the private meeting room. And Teresa, who used to run the space, used to say, do you want me to make the bed? Or are you guys not coming back? So we spent a lot of time there, and one of the more memorable moments that I can remember was Apex sent Harry and I, as FYNIL, the company, Find Your NIL, to go up and represent Virginia Tech at New York Tech Week. And I remember the second time I went, you were actually there as well. But the first time, we went and met two amazing people. Ben Weiss, who founded Bywater, if you've ever heard of it. BAI with the little leaf over top, I like to say. And Wynn Sheridan, who is a great friend of mine, and we keep in contact to this day, who founded Apex Systems. He's an awesome Hokie, passionate Hokie, and we always chop it up about tech football whenever we see each other. But Harry and I went to Ben Weiss's new company's headquarters in New Jersey, right outside of Princeton. And his new company is called Crook and Marker. They're coming out. You might have seen them in grocery stores. It's another beverage brand. But Ben Weiss, underneath that headquarters, had a speakeasy in his basement. It was a once-in-a-lifetime insane it was just, I'll never forget it. And you walk down the stairs underneath their company headquarters. You go through a long, dark tunnel. And there's rocks everywhere. And then he opens this big double doors. And it's, I hate to use the word man cave, but it's what comes to mind. There's like a bar down there. There's a bunch of very important things to him. It was very personalized. And the whole space told his entrepreneurial story. What was also down there was what used to be the set of Fox Business's $1 billion idea, which is very similar to Shark Tank. And we had to pitch on that set. It wasn't recording live, otherwise I'd pull up the footage right now, but it was not live. But we got to pitch on the set. And I'll never forget, he goes, "Hey, Ben, Harry," this is Ben Weiss, "I've been looking forward to your pitch all day. Why don't you guys go first?" Okay, great. We get up there. Our pitch is about 5 minutes, and we've got it down. We won the, and what I referenced was the demo day for the Apex Center for Entrepreneurs, their kind of flagship event every year, if you will. And that's what this check behind me is for. So we can pitch. We had to pitch down. I kid you not. We get up there. All right, 1 minute, go. And we bombed it, to be completely transparent. Our pitch was 5 minutes. That's what we were prepared for. And because I'm so stubborn, we actually ended up taking his feedback and saying, we're going to go again. And we went again, and we actually killed it the second time. And it was just a great learning experience. It was a bunch of other Hokie entrepreneurs. And that's just one of the many, many blessings and opportunities that the Apex Center presented me that I'll never forget. I'll never forget that moment.
Of course. No, that's one heck of an experience right there.
Yeah.
Wow. I could only imagine the whole stress of pitching, doing a quick elevator pitch or whatever it may be. It can be a lot, yeah. Especially when they're just like 1 minute go. That's a lot, man.
Yeah, but it was 1 minute go when we're on the stage.
Wow.
So but you know what? That's how you learn. You got to get up there.
Mm-hmm.
You have to fail. That's one of the best ways to learn. And really, all it takes is getting up there and trying, and you'll get to where you should be.
100%. Very well said. So obviously, you have your fair share of experiences in this regard. And so let's, get really into the main gist of the first part of this kind of episode is,
Okay.
How to start a successful startup in college as a student, no matter what you're majoring in, if you have an idea or even if you don't, how to really take it somewhere, right?
Okay.
So, how should students in general go about finding a startup idea while in college? So let's say someone doesn't have an idea, but they know they want to get into something. What do you recommend they do first thing?
I sort of have two rules that I like to stick to. You don't want to create a product in search of a problem. If you do that, you'll spend a lot of time, and you might find a problem to solve. You might not. That's one major thing I find people do. They have this idea and they build something, but they don't have the problem validated. They don't know who they're building this for. So what I would do is I would start with a problem. Maybe it's a problem that you've identified, that you're familiar with, that you're emotionally connected to, or something that you're experienced in, right? That's what ends up happening a lot of times in later year entrepreneurs. They're experts in their field. They've been there for 20 years, and they know a problem that they could solve better than anybody. That's number one. Don't start a product in search of a problem. Don't start a solution in search of a problem. And to play off of that, the second point, if you have one paying customer, you have a business. And I have to shout out Professor Ron Poff because he introduced me to the Lean Startup Canvas. And that's what I like to go by, quick iterations, right? You have to get either beta users if you're developing something and get iterations quickly, in my opinion, or start with a paying customer, right? And you can say to the customer, okay, I know you've got this problem. How can we solve it for you and have you pay us for that? Almost every business never reaches that point. Okay, so I would not start a product or service in search of a problem. I would start with a customer, somebody that's ideally willing to pay you for a product or a service, and build it for them. I always say if you have one paying customer, you have a business. That's where I would start.
100%, very well said. And I think, going off of that point, when you look at the idea of like solutions in search of a problem, AI just takes over that space. I mean, oh my God, it can, let me tell you, whenever I go to these networking events, like I remember, like just a while ago, they had a huge tech conference. I think it was somewhere in the Bay Area. And it was just like some of the most, they called it, I remember TechCrunch made an article on it, they called it AI slop. There was I think if I get it right, there was like a salt shaker, but it was AI. So it can track how much you want and give you the perfect amount. It's like, who really needs it? And it's like $500. It's
exactly. And you just encapsulated perfectly what I just said. I mean, an AI salt shaker, come on. Who no individual has ever said, I would be willing to pay because I need an AI salt shaker, right? And that's people. A lot of people get excited. They get on the AI buzz. When I first started, it was the NFT, sort of the crypto buzz. But yeah, well said. I couldn't agree more.
Mm-hmm. So, building off of that, we can see that it's very important that a good founder is constantly auditing themselves, having self-awareness. Listen, is this actually a problem that needs to be solved, etc. In addition to that, what are some other key factors or characteristics that make a founder and also, an extent, their startup successful?
I would say that you have to be able to tell a story. That is arguably the most lucrative and the most important part for a founder who's going to be externally facing, right? You can have a genius CTO who's building something crucial. But from my end, if I'm going to be selling and pitching, you have to be able to tell a story. And most stories can follow just the simple format, right? Introduction, here's the problem, and make the problem dire. If it doesn't seem like the world's going to burn without what you're doing, you're not selling it hard enough. Start with that problem. Make it emotional if you can, or extremely logical. Either one can work. And then, but don't worry, because our product or solution will solve that. So be able to tell that story, tell that narrative, and do it in a way that's clear, that's not too technical. Even founders that I speak to today, and again, I'm no expert. This is just speaking from my experience. But sometimes even founders today, CEOs that I speak with, they go on and on and on and on about the technical this, technical that, and it could be to a bunch of investors who have no idea what they're talking about. You have to tell the story. And if you can look people in the eyes confidently, be mindful of your body language, and project a great story. One of my great mentors always said, entrepreneurship, people invest in the jockey, not the horse. All right.
I like that.
That's and you and I have discussed this privately, and you had your own saying about that. But it's people really invest when you just have an idea. They're investing in you, and they believe that you can do it. Everybody understands that your first idea is going to iterate 15 times. Your first idea is almost never going to be the one that works. And if they're going to give you money, or they're going to mentor you or join your advisory board, they're going to do it because of you. And if you can tell that story in the way I just explained it, you should be pretty golden.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. The idea of investing in the person is just so key. When you realize that, when I was at Tech Week, the same year that you went as well, I was talking. Tech Week is jam-packed with VCs at any event you go. It's insane. And I was talking to one, and I was asking about, at the time I was just getting into the world of VC. I was interested and want to learn more about it. I asked the guy, I said, listen, what's the hardest part about your job? And he said exactly that, is that we're not just investing in companies. You can look at, financial metrics all day if you want. You can look at projections all day. But at the end of the day, it comes to you're investing in a person or a group of people. And that's really something you got to understand,
Absolutely.
It's just so important. And, actually, going off that point, I wanted to hear, right? So my personal, this is the same discussion I had with him, which is why I want to bring it up. My personal discussion with him was like, one thing that he said he was looking for is someone that's very driven, right? And that's something anyone would want to find, right? And the first thing I thought there, and I'm very glad it came up now because there's actually a question I want to bring up, is, college students specifically who are in the entrepreneurial space, who have a startup, very, very driven people for the most part, right? However, depending on their course load, that can really, stop them from reaching the level they want to get to. So how do you recommend, from your experience especially, that founders balance their startup with, their coursework and other responsibilities?
Great question, because that is something that I struggled with and had to work through, and every other person in the CRC, Corporate Research Center, in Blacksburg, Christiansburg, and in the Apex Center deal with. I like to think of my time as a plate. It's just super simple. And a lot of times, if you just put pen to paper and write it down and write out a strategy, you can break out your time exactly how you want to do it. If you have a purposeful and a mindful strategy for how to manage your time, you'll be fine. But if you just jump in blindly and just go, which is what most founders do, which is what I sort of did, you'll burn out. I burnt out. And it takes a long time to recover from something like that. Don't burn out. Get a journal out. Break down your time by day, by week, by month, by year. Break it down and divide it up for what's reasonable, right? And I use the 80% rule, all right? I assume that I'm only going to have 80% of the time that I think I will, because always other stuff happens. Write it down. And be mindful about it. Update it. Work with it. If you're thinking about, I can't burn out, I still need to graduate, please graduate. Please graduate. I'm speaking for all the mothers out there. Please graduate. You can do both. It's okay. Unless you're about to raise $10 million, please graduate. But that's what I would say. I would say be mindful about it. Think about it. If it's in the front of your thought and you have a written plan, not just, maybe not in your notes, get a pen out and write it down, you'll be okay. For you engineers out there, I was a business student, so best of luck to you, because I know your workload is maybe a little more challenging. But the same thing applies for all. It's I would say get out and do it. Don't wait. For all you entrepreneur majors out there, I'm speaking directly to you. You can't just learn that in a classroom. If you want to learn entrepreneurship, walk over to the Apex Center, get some chicken nuggets from PK's, take them upstairs, sign in, and just start. But again, start with the problem. Because if now's the time you can afford to build something and learn from it. When you're 35 with kids, a wife or a husband and a mortgage, you're not going to have this freedom, this flexibility to fail and learn ever again in your life, I think. So just go do it, but do it mindfully.
No, 100%. And we just touched on really two important points that you want to steer away from as a founder. One, you want to look for the problem first, not the solution. And two, you want to make sure you manage your time properly. Absolutely. And from your experience, both at Tech and now that you yourself are mentoring and helping startup founders in college, what are some other mistakes beyond those two that you see student founders make, especially early on?
Some other mistakes. Here's one. Being too cocky. A lot of times, founders, they're on the frontier, generally speaking, of something new, of something exciting. And every new step you take is brand new. It's exciting, and it's different. This is not the normal, traditional path, internship, all the things, right? So, I don't know, maybe you get a really awesome CEO on your board, or just to chat every month. Don't let that go to your head. Maybe you win a pitch competition. Maybe you win a few $1,000s. Don't let that go to your head. One of the smartest people I always know, he tells himself every day, I don't know shit. And I wish I could say that full word, but I will not. He is extremely successful, a genius, I believe. And he tells himself every day, I approach meetings, I approach conversations from the mindset of I don't know a thing. And if he's doing that, us as founders, especially young ones, ambitious ones, that's how we have to approach it. You cannot walk into a meeting like you know it all, because you will get chewed up and spit out so fast. And when Harry and I were on the train back from New York, Tech Week, if you go to New York, take the train from Roanoke. Pro tip, it's an awesome time. And we were talking about AI and trying to integrate it into the classrooms for like K through 12. And this man behind us heard us and joined in. And he goes, where are you guys from? We go, Virginia Tech. And he goes, you know what? He was a venture capitalist from New York. I love Hokies. You know why? I said, why, sir? He goes, because you all walk into a room, just like I said, with open minds. With open minds. You guys walk in there like, I'm ready to work and I'm ready to learn. And if you can walk in as a founder to an investor meeting, to a pitch deck, to a pitch competition, confident. You have to be confident. Again, you have to exude that there's a giant problem and that you're going to fix it. But you have to balance coming off as arrogant, coming off as knowing all, and channeling that excitement to learning. Remember, entrepreneurship is learning. It's not achieving, okay? You have to focus on, hi, I'm here. I'm really grateful for your time, and I would love to learn more about how you do X, Y, and Z and how I can help. If you approach a meeting with that mindset, no one will turn you down. They'll almost always give you their time at least and share what they know with you. But if you walk in, hi, I've doing this for 3 years and we're going to raise this X, Y, Z, and I'm the best you'll ever know, and I could sell water to a fish. No one's going to take you seriously, because the most successful CEOs, even they acknowledge every day that they're not the smartest person in the room. They don't know everything, and they're still learning.
100%, especially in this day and age. Social media for our generation just makes it, entrepreneurship look like this
And
huge
LinkedIn. Everybody's trying to post everything they ever do, and I respect the grind. I'm on there myself, but our culture, as you're saying, is so achievement focused. But when you get into the real world off of LinkedIn and it's real business time, you need to have an open mind and learn.
And I like that you mentioned that point about entrepreneurship being more about learning than anything else. A lot of people, in their minds, entrepreneurship is more than anything about making money. But it's just not how it works. That's such a naive mindset to go into things with.
Money is a byproduct of success. Okay? Money is a byproduct of, and I would dumb it down even further, of learning. Right? That's why you're going to school.
Right.
If you say I'm going to work my butt off for 4 years to go to Virginia Tech and get a degree purely so that I can make money, good luck. Okay? And it's the same thing. If you're going to sacrifice your time with your family and your friends and be in the Apex Center at 2 a.m. and walk out when everything's already locked up, just so you can make money, you will fail. If money is your see-all, end-all goal, you will fail, okay? You have to learn, and if you learn and you're a good person, the money will come. Please just don't focus on the money. Nothing drives me more crazy than that. But when young people get a taste of money, that's generally their first thing. They'll post it online, money spread, like a bunch of silly, crazy things, right? Let's not do that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not do that.
No, very, very well said. Very important point to take home. But yeah, and going off of that, I think it's a great segue into jumping into the second part of this episode, which is, okay, you found an idea, you're working on something, you're full on, you've dived into the entrepreneurial world, but guess what? You're graduated now, you're in the real world, you have a job, you have things to take care of, right? How do you balance, this new world with something that you were familiar with? And so, in your opinion, how has that looked like for you?
Challenge. But the same approach applies after graduation as to when you're in school. It's just a little more difficult. You have to be very mindful and, again, very purposeful with your time. So right now, I'm getting married in June. There's a lot of things going on. I would say one of my many jobs is planning a wedding and a honeymoon and many of the things, if you will. And taking the risk to spend my time on entrepreneurial ventures is difficult. But you have to sit down, like I sat down with my fiance, or with your friends and family, whoever is most important to you, and you have to justify, you have to be able to explain, all right, I'm going to take this risk because this, right? Don't just walk out onto a diving board with a blindfold on. Please make sure you know where the ramp is to get out of the pool. Have a good plan and communicate. And the biggest thing I can say is when you graduate, don't get into a silo. And what I mean by that is your entrepreneurship should not be sitting on your computer alone in your house. Get out. Build a mentorship network. Excuse me, I dropped my pen. Build a mentorship network and build a team of people around you that can support you. Because if you try to do this all by yourself, especially after graduation, when the risks are higher, the rewards are higher, but the risks are higher as well. And you'll start to have rent. You'll start to have maybe a mortgage and all the things. Especially if you're moving out of your parents' home, you can't afford as much all that risk. So you have to have good people around you that can recognize maybe when you're slipping or when you're doing something wrong. And you cannot be in a silo. Okay, I came up here back to Northern Virginia where I was born, And I missed the Apex Center. Okay? I missed all of the world's best founders who are Hokie alumni driving down and visiting us in Blacksburg, 5 times a week, events all over the place. I missed that. And I made, again, a conscious choice. It's a challenging one to go seek people, get out of my silo. I went to a Blue Venture Cyber Forum, and they're a notable venture capital firm in Northern Virginia. And I said, okay, I want to go to this forum, and I went to sign up, and it was $400 for a ticket. And I said, absolutely not doing that. Can't justify that, if you know what I'm saying. And I didn't stop there, though. So I reached out to the folks there at Blue Ventures, and I said, how can I go? And they actually said, we have a volunteer program where if you volunteer X amount of time, we'll let you in for free. So I took my twin brother with me. I took my friend from high school with me, and I grabbed a whole team, right? Don't stay in your silo. And we all went out there, and the amount of meetings, the amount of opportunities, the people that we met just from going to one event in Capital One Hall in Tyson's is insane. And my brother, Chase, got to shout him out. He said to me the other day, he said, I just can't believe how much came out of going to one event. And I said, all you have to do is show up. Okay? So if you're going to graduate and maybe you have a job and maybe you're building something on the side, I know you're tired, right? Leave work, go drive to a networking event, go meet people, stay out, stay exposed to people. Don't silo in. That's my number one thing I would give people. If you graduate and you've got this network because you've been an awesome entrepreneur throughout college and you've been at the centers and you've done all the things, don't go back to where you're working or where you grew up and silo yourself back in. Stay connected.
100%. And like you just said, leveraging your network, reaching out to these people, getting to know what's going on around your city, who can I meet, where can I meet them, what can I do, etc. And, the majority of our listeners are living currently in Northern Virginia or Virginia in general, right?
Okay.
However, there are, based on the metrics, there are, a good solid percentage of individuals that are listening from elsewhere, specifically cities that aren't so booming with, entrepreneurial, efforts and fire, right? So obviously in Northern Virginia, D.C. area, or in New York City, or in Charlotte, right? These are some great places that everything is going on, right? You want to find a networking event, it'll be there. However, these other places, how do you recommend people leverage what they have to really make the most of it?
Give me an example.
So let's say you're in Wichita, Kansas, all right? And I know I made it hard for you there, but just like, you really want to start connecting with people, meeting new people, right? Expanding beyond your network. No shade to Wichita, Kansas, by the way. You guys have
no shade.
You guys have a great city. I don't mean to press that on you guys. But you want to expand beyond your network, right? You want to meet new people that can take you further and you can take them further, right? How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, I have two thoughts on that, both of which get me a little excited. There's entrepreneurs everywhere. Okay, you don't have to be in Capital One Hall with venture capitalists to meet people that know business, that know problems, that know solutions, and that make a lot of money. You could throw a rock with a blindfold on and hit a business anywhere where you live, even in Wichita, Kansas. So if there's no formal networking events, be like my grandmother. Okay, last week I can't even say how old she is because I don't even know. But she's from Greece, and last week she was walking around a business park with flyers. She's my grandmother. I'm 23, with flyers, knocking down the front doors of a business park, selling 2 condos. Okay, so if my grandmother, who's not very young, can go out and knock down doors and meet with business owners and start selling things, anybody can. Okay? So get up off the couch, okay, close your laptop, and go find a business in your area that you like. And like I said, go there to learn. You can walk in there and say, hey, is the owner here? I'd love to learn what you do. And guess what? That person's going to have a network that expands beyond Wichita, right? You don't need a formal, fancy black tie networking event with name tags and all that to learn entrepreneurship. There's entrepreneurs everywhere. You just have to go find them yourselves. A. B. One of my mentors, Dr. Gerald Dangivar, he is the entrepreneur in residence at George Mason. And he hit me with a reality check the other day. We're talking about raising capital for some biotech firms. It's a project that we're working on. And we were talking about trying to raise money in the local area. And he goes, Ben, that's great. But guess what? You have a laptop. You're now global. Do you have a computer? I said, yes, sir. He goes, you're global. You can be in Washington. You can be in Miami, New York, and Austin in the same day. Right? So you have to find that balance. You can't be on your computer 24/7. At least I can't. It would drive me mad. But you can go. Austin, Texas has amazing venture capital stuff. Right? Join one of their online webinars. Like, you can join anything, anytime, anywhere with your laptop, but at the same time, you should be speaking to people in your area in person and networking with them, and you can do that anywhere.
Yeah, and on a side note, you mentioned something that I wanted to touch on right there. The idea of mentorship, right? And this kind of bridges the two spaces between in college, post-grad, trying to not only just do a startup, but just, kind of train your entrepreneurial mind, right? How have you found mentors or the idea of mentorship to be important? And for students that want to find mentorship, how do you recommend they go about that?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because there's nothing more important, in my opinion, that I gained from Virginia Tech than mentors. Nothing more important. I have a long list. Some of them I talk to more. It just depends on the time. I love my mentors. It's the greatest thing I got from school. What I would say is it's extremely valuable. It's a 3-tiered system. You're in the middle. You've got mentors above you, and you've got mentees beneath you. I think it's important to have not only a mentor who can help pull you up when you need it, but also have a mentee, a young one, beneath you, who can help push you up and give you that youthful energy that you can help, right? If somebody's helping you, help someone else. So while you're at Virginia Tech, whether you're talking to an old friend from high school who's some computer engineer and they're 12 years old and way smarter than you, or you're at an Apex Center and they've got a board of 30 people and they're all amazing and willing to help. Rob Cummings is one. You spoke with him. Engage in all of it, okay? So take the approach of trying to learn, all right? Go to them and say, hey, I really admire what you do. Go Hokies. And I would love to learn a specific thing. When you're trying to network with people, if you just, hey, tell me what you do, you might not get a response. But if you can show them that you dug into what they do a little bit and you have a very specific question, and hey, I just need 5 minutes of your time. Can you please tell me how you raised $4 million for this biotech startup in 2023? They'll respond within a day, and they'll get on with you. You guys will talk. You'll build a relationship, and the next thing you know, you'll have a mentor. Specific asks, and shoot your shot. Okay? Uzi said, got to shoot 2 at her. I'm sorry, I had to do that. But I think of that all the time, I shoot messages out to people, email, LinkedIn, voice messages. Half the time they don't respond, and I always send a second, sometimes a third. I've gotten all the way to 8 one time, okay? So Do that and find your mentor with a specific ask and be ready to learn. On the same side, there's no better way to learn something than to teach it to somebody. Okay, remember that. So if you have a mentor, a mentee, a young person who's maybe you see a little bit of yourself in them, there's no better way to improve your own skills and to help others than to mentor somebody. Okay, so look for people to mentor you, and look for awesome upcomers to mentor yourself. It's a key balance, and both are important.
Yeah, and this kind of blends in. One point I want to mention that blends in with our last episode that we had with that I had with Muhammad Hunain on the whole realm of networking. And we actually had this discussion privately before. When you go to reach out to those potential mentors, right? What's how impactful is it to reach out with, in a warm sense? So having a middleman there that you guys both know versus just a cold outreach.
It's who you know, not what you know. And that stays true in networking. So if you can say, hi, Mr. Michael, I met your friend blank the other day, and he spoke very highly of you. Do you have 5 minutes to hop on a quick call or connect or grab a coffee and share with me how you did this? That's another bonus, right? Like I said earlier, if you have a specific ask and you can show that you researched and looked into what they do, that's a plus. But if you can say a name that'll grab their attention, you're pretty much golden.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. And I think that's something that so many students in college have, right? You have all this faculty that just, their connections are insane if you ask them, and they just don't utilize it,
Yes, and use your professors. That's a great point that you just brought up. Almost all of my major connections that I have today, I just walked up to my professor after class. Hey, I want to do this. Do you know anybody? They'll send you a list of 10 people. It's insane. Nobody takes advantage of it. Very few people do. Virginia Tech has awesome professors that love ambitious people. And if you just go up to them and ask if they know anybody, you don't even need to have this specific ask. Throw all that out the window. If it's your professor, they will help you.
Yeah. From my personal experience as well, it was shocking because when you go from high school where everything's kind of superficial, your teacher teaches you, that's basically as far as it goes. At college, they really want to help you. They want to see you succeed beyond the books,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's huge. So kind of wrapping up, this whole episode and, taking home a few takeaways and advice, starting first with the first part, creating a startup in college. Just in one way, what's your best advice for a student founder looking to build a startup in college? I know that's general, but if you could give one piece of advice, what would that be?
Start. It's very simple. The only way to learn is to actually do it. You can read all the LinkedIn articles, all the slideshows in your classroom. That's great. That'll arm you with some baseline knowledge. Entrepreneurship is an act, and it's a challenge. And the only way to do it, to learn, is to do it. And doing it can be failing. Fail now, please. If you tell me that you're an entrepreneur and you're a freshman and sophomore and you've already failed 2 businesses, I'll give you a hug. I'm not kidding. I'm so happy. They might seem down. I'll say, no. Do you want to fail 2 businesses now or when you have a mortgage and a wife and kids? You let me know, right? You've learned so much. Just start. Don't be afraid. Don't worry about what everybody thinks and what failure looks like. Don't worry. Everybody fails. Some people just are a little more afraid of it. So go out and do it. Start, meet people. Again, first step, don't build something in search of a solution, please. Or in search of a problem, excuse me. Start with a problem and just solve one problem for one person and convince them to pay you. And you have a business.
Totally. That is gold right there. I mean, every part of that. Especially just getting running with it, Don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. I remember my first startup, I still have the file of I don't even know what we were writing at that point. It was just analyses for the sake of doing it,
And I've done it too. And I propped up Apex a lot in every entrepreneurial opportunity at Virginia Tech. They don't sponsor me or anything. I just think they're an incredible resource. However, I will say a lot of startups end up becoming a pitch competition company, okay? The pitch competitions are great. The business plan ideation groups are great. That should not be your only focus. Again, solve one problem for one person and have them pay you. That is your only mission, okay? Everything else on the side, the startup supports, the accelerator programs, have them help you get one person to pay you for something. That's it. Otherwise you can get caught in this trap of just prepping for competition after competition, and then a year later you don't even have a business, right? You might have raised some money, but you still don't have customers. That's one caution I would give people. As amazing as these resources are, don't just become a pitch competition company, okay? Focus on the product or service and the problem first, and then learning with the outside resources, do that second, okay? That's a side point, but very, very important.
Totally. And then in regards to the second part of this episode, right? What's your best advice for someone who's graduated or is graduating and is in general just unsure about their next entrepreneurial move?
Call me. It's that simple. Like I said, once you get out of school, don't stay siloed. And if you're feeling siloed by yourself or you lost your network once you left college, call me. All right? Email me, Ben Morin, at vt.edu. It's simple. Or find me on LinkedIn. You can call me. I will pull you out of that silo and I will throw you in front of 50 people. Okay? It's that simple. Maybe you don't call me. Maybe you call... Anybody can open their phone and find one person they know that they connected with at college and give them a call. It's the same thing as starting the company, as I said. Just start. Or just call one person, okay? Don't silo yourself in. Don't lose the network that you worked so hard for. And if that means just calling one person, that can be enough to pull you into a completely different direction.
I love it. I love it. Listen, Ben, thank you so much. This was, every word that was said in this episode was just gold. I know our listeners are going to love it. This is something that's been on their mind for so long. I know that from my personal experience and people that I talk to, I think that, taking, that first step and, taking all your advice is definitely something that can be extremely helpful, especially in the college space.
Yes, of course. I really appreciate your time and this opportunity to share what little I have learned so far. I'm still learning every day. And like I said, to any of your listeners, I'm 23. I'm no genius, but I've failed a few times, so I've learned a few things. You can call me. Literally call me, LinkedIn me. I'm on my phone all the time. I'll tell you anything you want to learn, or I'll help you, right? I love to help people. So just start. Entrepreneurship, you have to learn by doing. And don't silo yourself in once you graduate. Just call somebody. That's it. That simple.
100%. Well, once again, thank you so much, Ben. I appreciate your time and all of your advice. And I look forward to staying in touch, man.
Thank you. And go Hokies.
Go Hokies. Let's do this. All right. Have a good one. It's good to see you. All right. Bye-bye.